My name is Andrew Oury, and I'm an accountant, also an entrepreneur. I work for a business which specializes in taking people from the Indian market into the European market, setting them up in all aspects, legal, accounting, and otherwise. I've known cross-border angels and scale for a while now, and they do something that we really like, which is cross-border. Basically, what we like as a business is cross-discipline and cross-border is what we try and do. The world changed. Basically, the world got global, and at the moment, investment and infrastructure hasn't caught up. So I guess we're trying to help with the sort of professional infrastructure and trying to help people build those bridges and understand how to build international companies. And these guys are helping with sort of breaking down the walls between, startups and corporates and startups and cross-border opportunities, understanding a global market, as it were. You guys have got so many clever people. You have a lot of very highly educated, very hard-working, intelligent people. India's probably going to be the biggest market ever for sort of startups and entrepreneurs coming through like that. You're naturally a very entrepreneurial culture. I mean, your ecosystem's very strong like that. There's some weaknesses in the ecosystem, but yeah, the talent itself is great. And I think the younger generations, they're just they understand global. They probably, due to the internet, we've all sort of become much more understanding of a sort of general sense of what it is, how to do business in a global manner, as it were. If I deal with an Indian company of people who are 50 years old or older, how they approach and how they try and work with a British company, there's a bit of discordance there. Whereas I find, the young startups, the entrepreneurs, half of them have traveled internationally a lot, educated internationally, a brilliant culture. And the fact you guys work so hard and you're so clever and educated, it just means, huge potential here, really. Yeah, I mean, from a European perspective, that European market is a really tough one, but unless you involve yourself in it, you're going to be quite blinded to a hell of a lot what's going on. Europe is actually the largest economic area in the world. It's the largest single market in the world. So, that's obviously attractive. It's really expensive for you and it's really complicated for you, but it's very attractive from a private point of view. Everyone loves to live in Europe. It's a fascinating place. And I think, if you're trying to build a business, you got to get your head around what Europe is up to, as it were, just as much as you got to get your head around America and how that happens. In regard to trying to raise money, America's usually people's first choice, and it is the largest capital market in the world. The second largest is London, and London's a pretty cool town. And VCs will talk to you in London. They're looking for good ideas. They're changing their attitude that they will invest overseas. What they will want is they want to be near you. So you got to get in front of these people. You got to start spending some time in London. I would recommend, because it's the main capital market. But I'm biased, and I would ignore the whole Brexit, the whole where you just got to ignore that. I mean, in reality, from my perspective, job, whether you want to set up a business in Europe or not, it makes really no difference whether or not it's with it, we're part of the EU or not. It's those issues, and I mean it makes no difference in everything you need to do: set up the company, how you operate, where you pay tax. But anyway, it's too much detail. It's been very nice. Yeah, lovely event, mate. Bangalore's cool. The traffic's crap. Some really cool businesses here. I think they're really trying to get over the point to work with corporates, and that there's this changing dynamic now that the corporates, not just looking for R&D, but are becoming quite sort of open in their relationships, and that building relationships early with corporates is important. Well, yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really interesting change that's happening, now that you can raise money like that. But yeah, it's a lovely event. What can I say? For me, what I find difficult is traditionally corporates only took notice of you once you annoyed them. Once you annoyed them, they either bought you, to kill you, or they got rid of you. They copied what you were doing. Now that's changed. It's not so much about you annoying them. It's now about, there are incubators sponsored by corporates. Corporates are pulling in R&D companies, and they don't have the mobility to do what to move with the speed that a startup comes. So the relationship's got much better. I mean, there's still, for me, there's some fear there a little bit about, this sort of relationship, that the corporate will has ulterior motives, really. But I think that's the point of this event and other event, is that's what's changing a lot. And also they corporates accept they just can't do what a startup would do. They just can't do it. So they need them. They really need them, because what's happening is corporates are dying. That's the problem. Corporates are dying. No one still can believe Uber or any of these things. We still wake up every day that someone could, take over 30% of the hotel market with Airbnb. It's like, what? With a website. So corporates are having to be more respectful for their first time, which is good in that sense, and they're no longer so focused on their shareholders. They've now got to think about the environment, that they mustn't do bad environmental things, and they've got to think about the ecosystem, that they need to bring in this R&D. They need to understand where the hell they're going, yeah. Well, I guess actually they're quite similar, these events. I mean, that's a good thing. There's becoming a common ecosystem now, driven by sort of American attitudes. I mean, the difference between America and Europe is America. These guys, everyone sells their company every year in America. Every year they buy a company, they do a bit with it, and then they sell it. So the main aspect is always this concept of failure. In America, failure is fine, failure is okay, and that's all part of their culture, and that's really important to their entrepreneurial culture. In the UK, failure is it's not that great. It's not great. It's not the end of the world either, but it's not that great. In Germany, failure is awful. If you fail in a company in Germany, you can't even get a job. So that's the attitude is changing. Here in India, I don't have an exact sense of it. What I have a sense of is there was an old school who kind of don't understand, and Indian investment has always been about bricks and mortar. I have plenty of Indian clients, and they couldn't care how clever the technology is. All they want is buildings. They want things they can point at. And that attitude is really entrenched in Indian culture. I mean, much more so even than in UK culture. That disappeared quite a long time in the UK. It's a bit more advanced in that sense. And here I can see the pushback. I can see, the parents saying to their kids, "Oh, you need to do something proper. We need to invest in something properly." And that's sad for me, because I deal a lot with very wealthy people sometimes who all they want to do is buy property. And I think surely you want to take 10% of this money and stick it in startups. Go and do something fun, and have a chance of making a lot of money out of it. So they're a sort of problem, but with great respect to them, they're getting old. They're getting old fast, and where you live is becoming a much more complicated question. Everyone likes to live in, everyone would like to have a place in London, but London is an extremely expensive place to live, for instance. So there's only going to be a small slice of people who are going to afford to live in these sort of cities. I don't think you need to anymore. You can be anywhere with a laptop, and you can go and spend a month in London when you want to. I don't know anyone who lives in central London anymore. We've all been pushed out. So it's that property. He's a complicated one, I guess. But I guess this you've just got quite a divided culture. You've got this very young, driven, international, grown up with the internet, eyes open wide, a lot of traditional values disappearing. And then you've got this old school sitting there. And it would be nice if they helped the young more, but it's common around the world. It's common in Australia. It's common in lots of countries where you've got this sort of this shift going on.